Welcome into the Bobby Carpenter Show. Excited to be in here on a big Thursday. Huge show for you. We got our guy, Mr. Ben Scott Stevens, that's going to be joining us here in about 15 minutes, Slugs. So we're super excited to get all of the news and nuggets and everything there for you that will be leading you into this weekend with all the games. Not a huge slate of games. We'll recap some of the ones that he picked last week and then look and see where he's finding some value. Look at a couple of games. Ohio State's game, I don't even think is on the board, Schlegs.
It shouldn't be.
Well, I mean, there's a number at some point that everybody will bet. I mean, all you got to do is make the line big enough. It's just hard to kind of figure that out sometimes. And you get those FCS teams, but you know, there's always a way to get some action, Schlegs. That's the moral of the story.
Oh yeah, you love side action. Can I get the side action, please, on one? Side action on one. And there's some really good games that are intriguing this week coming up that I'm excited to talk to him about.
All right, so we'll get that going with our guy, Ben Stevens. I want to start out, though. You always talk about the biggest jump being between weeks 1 and week 2. Where do you want to see those jumps happen for the Buckeyes this week?
Well, I would like to see some of the – obviously, we had a couple of drops in that game. So just more of the offense as a whole, being able to click, the timing, show everybody kind of Julian's arm in that case. So that's kind of one. That's not my number one now that I think about it. Number one would probably be the blocking and the vision and hitting the hole from the offensive line and the running backs. Like that gelling. And again, I go back. People forget that was a Texas defense. That is a top 10 defense that you're playing. So how does that look? How have we gotten better? How are guys able to hit the hole? Yeah, I understand that you have to have patience, but there's sometimes you got to put your foot in the ground and just go north and south. What does that look like? That's probably number one. Number two, it will be what I talked about in the passing game, showing off his arm, the routes, hitting the open receiver, guys making catches. No problem. Not concerned about it, but I want to see it. I think everybody wants to see what this offense is capable of doing when hitting and firing on all cylinders, especially the big plays. And three, to me, would be a special team situation in the punt. Now, it's unfortunate because you ain't punting in this game. So that's probably not going to be there. So
that's the hope. You shouldn't be punting in this game.
No. So then I would say probably the next one would be in this game, you're going to probably see a lot of base, you can still disguise and do things because you're continually working on that. And in this Texas game, I saw great communication with all the things that they were doing. They disguise well, which means you have to communicate well, which means that guys have to execute at a high level. And they did that right out the jump. Can we have a continuation of that? But most importantly, what does that look like up front and the depth of the defense? And really in a game like this, it's more along the lines of wanting to see the depth and live bullets in Ohio Stadium for all of those guys. So let's get to that point where they can get in, and let's see if the standard is still upheld in the 2s and the 3s moving forward in this game. What about you, Bob?
Are there any players in particular that you would like to see out there go out and play a big role? Because I know we talk about the 2s and the 3s, and we start getting some guys out there, and because it's going to be a fine balance, a little bit of trying to figure out how much to play some of these guys, and so there's a lot of realness to that of what that's going to look like with everything. I'm trying to figure out because there are some guys that you need to get Julian some reps, and I talked about a little bit of that in yesterday's show. Lincoln and Julian, how much reps do you get? Where's Tavian at? But is there anybody outside? You start looking outside the quarterbacks of what you want to see and what would be a good a good ratio or how to get them in and to get them some work?
Yeah, so I'm just thinking off the top of my head. O-line wise, I want to see Tegra, Ethan. I want to see Padilla at center. I want to see kind of that different makeup of the depth of the offensive line and what do those guys look like, especially the younger guys. I want to see some Bo Jackson. I want to see some Mylan Graham and Quincy Porter. I want to see that. I want to see Jelani Thurman, Christian Bennett. Actually, I said that wrong. Yeah, Bennett Christian, my guy. Will even. What does that look like in the passing game? It's kind of offensively for me because you already mentioned the quarterbacks. Defensively, I want to see CJ more off the edge. I want to see the Will Smith Juniors and Taiwan Malone. I want to see that interior. Obviously, you're going to get a dose of Peyton Pierce. What does Riley look like as a linebacker? And then obviously some of the other dogs like Malik, those guys in the back end, the corners, them getting Devin Sanchez getting a lot of reps in this game. What does that kind of look like? Because that's this type of game. But first off, you got to go out there and handle your job and handle your business to give them the opportunity to do that. And is that something that you can do coming out after the first drive, first series of the third quarter? Sure, that would be the goal, but you still got to go out there and execute. So I want to see a high level execution from the ones, and then I want to see a transition to, is the standard still there for those guys who could be that depth as you move into a really long season? That's what these next couple of games are.
Yeah, it's going to be important.
Who are you thinking? Who's like somebody that just stands out to you?
There's a couple guys that I think in a normal season you would want to get reps for. Like you would have wanted to get, like in a normal week one where you're not playing Texas. Like let's say Texas is 2 or 3 or another game, not the first game. I think you probably would have wanted to see Riley Pettijohn a little bit more. Played well on special teams, but getting him into our defense, the problem is when you're one play away, there's going to be mistakes that are made by the young guys. Jalen McClain played a ton. Malik Hartford didn't play. And so that was kind of surprising because those guys rotated a lot during camp. I thought that would be something that he would get in there a little more. But when you're playing well, you don't necessarily want to mess with stuff. So he's another guy that you want to see him go in there and get in that rotation early, not when they do like wholesale substitutions, but hey, you get in there, play for Caleb a little bit, play for Jalen a little bit, like in that first half. And I'm not talking like late garbage time. I'm talking about just like letting guys get integrated in there when you're playing with the top 15, 16 guys on defense. Because defense, it's easy to do that, to kind of roll and to work some of those guys in there. So those are 2 guys. And then probably Aaron Scott, who didn't really play on defense and has played really well. Great tackler, long athletic corner. To see him get in there early in this one. And then also maybe Bryce West, to see him get in there and see what he can do. Like those are 2 other young guys who now second-year players who I think are ready to go. And if it would have been a normal game to start the season, I think you would have seen those guys in there and they would have played. But I just don't think there's any – when you're playing well, you look at how well the back end was playing. I don't think there was let's say a worry, not a worry, but you don't want to break up continuity of what's working in the game. And so when you're playing that well on the back end, especially against a talented receiving core and a really talented quarterback, I don't know if you want to just roll a ton of guys and risk giving up a big play in a big game like that when maybe then you get their feet wet a little bit and start getting into it some more.
Well, if you look at even another thing is when Caleb comes out, that's a strong safety position. We saw a lot where you had Malik and Jalen in there at the same time, but how do they want to use them? What's the big nickel look like in those packages? Is it Lorenzo as opposed to, a safety in that, because that's kind of the Jordan Hancock position, which he can do. What is that for? Which then gives Bryce Rest like other areas of repping. That's what you're seeing, guys, like that, because you always also want to have that veteran presence to be able to speak and communicate and like run the show on the back end. How does that play out? And coaches are going to do that strategically. What does this look like? How does this look like? How did this guy respond in this situation? Let's test him. Boom. No better testing them than when it's live bullets in front of 105,000 people. So that's what they're looking at. And also to me, it's the development of that younger offensive line. Like Ian Moore, guys, is going to be somebody that is a dog. I love Ethan. But Jake Cook, true freshman.
Wait, Ian Moore or Ethan Moore?
Ian Moore. What did I say, Ethan?
You said Ian, and then you said Ethan. You said both.
Well, I misspoke. Gabe's the dude. Padilla, right? Like those guys. What is that? Right guard, Padilla. Padilla. Yeah, that's what I call him. And he has this unmistakable flat top with a brow that kind of comes down like he's scolding you, but he's actually happy. I love that. That's what you want to see. Like he really has to pop his neck up so he can see, because he has that Neanderthal skull, which I appreciate. But yeah, you want to get those guys some looks. And another guy that we haven't talked about who adds a tremendous amount of value, who stayed and is working, is Bryson Rodgers, right?
Yeah.
So again, in that wide receiving room, what does that look like? Anyways, a lot of guys, a lot of opportunities out there. We want to see where their development is. And what does it mean? Like when they put on the tape, did you go out there and you win? Did you execute? If I built trust with my teammates, obviously that happens during practice. It's just another level when you could do it, inside Ohio Stadium.
How do you get guys amped up for this? Schlegs, if you're coming down, you play Texas.
Easy money.
Well, I know you got 105,000 out there, but to prepare with the same level of intensity, like that's hard because against Texas, you're chasing edges, man. You're pushing out, you're trying to expand as much as you can to be good. This, like, in theory, Ohio State has better players than Grambling across the board. They can play below average and still win comfortably. Getting your guys to control and focus and maintain those good routines and patterns. Like what are those conversations like? Especially we're talking about who do you want to see play, because in reality, that's what's going to happen. But keeping everybody fully engaged this weekend.
Yeah, it's twofold, man. One, it's why the culture of a program has to be competitive excellence, because you got to think about it. And I was thinking about this. You go through 8 months of training, literally for 12 days. That's not to mention the playoff. You have 12 opportunities to go feast. There's a party at the ball and everybody's invited. And the only time you get to do that is on a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, depending upon when your game happens. So that in and of itself is your motivation. The standard is the standard. When we flip on that tape and everybody watches, that is your peers. What are you doing? So how are you preparing? How are you being a pro? And for those older guys, it's like, man, I have to do my job and feast early because we're going to be out. And it's not like I'm trying to get stats. It's just like, no, man, I got a certain amount of time and I don't want them to piss a drop if you're on deep. You know this, Bob. Like, I don't want them to get a first down. You are pissed off that they get a first down. If they miss it, you are pissed off that they were able to get a 4-yard gain and it should have been a 2-yard gain. Like, that's it. The competitive excellence aspect of it, the spotlights that you have in training, that's what motivates you to stay within it. Because, again, the best part about 1-0 is a chance to go 2-0. And we talked about in that process, it's living within that moment and where your feet are. It's not, oh, we got Ohio at night, or then we have a bye week, and what do I want to do on my Thursday, or what am I going to do after the game when my family's here and get Donatos and eat a bag of Oreo cookies. It's not that.
That sounds great.
I know it does sound great. Dunking them in milk with salad tongs.
Dunkin'
It's not
nuts?
that. No. Vanilla nut, no. It's about competitive excellence. And that's where I think Ryan Day habitually has always had his teams prepared. They don't lose to the teams that they're not supposed to lose to, and they are prepared. And as a coach, again, younger team, do you want players to lead this 100%? And I don't know what's going on at practice, but as coaches, you're always the catalyst to make sure that the juice and the preparation is there for your athletes. And then once it happens where it is player-led, it's great. Doesn't mean you stop analyzing it or looking at it, but then you also can complement and build up. Hey, you guys had a really good week of preparation. Great job by you, whomever, right? Sonny, of getting this unit room locked in, ready to go, focused, and everybody prepared. Awesome job. That's when, as a coach, you can start building them up to overtake it, because the player-led teams are always going to be your better teams.
Absolutely. All right, Schlegs, we're not going to wait any longer. We got our guy, Ben Scott Stevens, waiting in the wings. Now West Coast Ben, formerly New Jersey Ben, heading out there, moved. We'll check up on how the move went, how he was able to consume college football, what he thought about last weekend. And this may not have the banner games of last weekend, but there are going to be some nice nuggets in there that we're going to find a way to get to. I want to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. They're getting you ready for the NFL season. It's starting tonight with an offer you don't want to miss. You got the Packers and the Cowboys, Schlegs. How about them Cowboys? New customers can get $5 You can bet just $5 and get a $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet $5. If it wins, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. You can build parlays, bet the player props, read the live reads, ride the live lines, whatever you like. FanDuel has you covered. NFL season is almost here. The only question is, are you ready? Visit FanDuel.com/bigplay to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Must be 21 older and present in Ohio or Pennsylvania. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Ben Stevens up next.
Creative, experience, results. That's what drives growth. That's what builds brands. That's Lakespur Marketing, a full-service agency built on trust, strategy, and performance, not fluff. From bold strategies to flawless execution, every campaign is rooted in smart planning and driven by clear goals. We don't chase clicks. We build partnerships. We show up, dig in, and deliver every single time. Lakespur Marketing. The proof is in our partners.
Who doesn't love having everything at their fingertips? With Pure AV's smart home automation, you can seamlessly manage your home's audio, video, lighting, security, and more, all with a simple touch. Create a sanctuary that embodies your unique style and personalized features that bring comfort to every moment. Sit back, relax, and let Pure AV bring convenience and control to your home. Visit us at pureavcorp.com today.
Now we're here with our guy, Ben Scott Stevens, coming in. Ben, before we get going too much, how was the move from literally like 2,000 plus miles across the country?
Yeah, from the heart of Big Ten country on the East Coast, an hour away from Piscataway in the Big Apple in New York City, now to the beaches of Southern California, the heart of Big Ten country out here on the West Coast. As you guys can tell, a couple of Amazon delivery snafus in terms of what the background is going to look like. I promise I am not a prisoner. I promise I am having fun. I promise I am excited to be here with Bobby and Schlegs previewing week number 2, but we still got to work on the home studio setup just a tad.
How did you watch the games? I mean, you had boxes probably all over the place. I mean, there's games Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, even though Bill Belichick probably wishes Monday didn't happen. How did we consume those?
So my flight was Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So literally flying through the entirety of that week 1 slate, but do not fret because I am a Sky Miles member on Delta. We got free Wi-Fi to stream. We watched everything. It was sensational. We were following along. We were tweeting out. We were part of the action on Thursday. And then as soon as I moved here, so here's a little peek behind the curtain. I'm actually moving in with my sister and brother-in-law right now, who have been very gracious and very welcoming to have me and my fiance here. We love them. We appreciate them. They had a smaller TV in their living room, but they understood who I am and how much football needs to be consumed throughout these months. So they ordered a large TV, 75-incher, damn smack pat right on their living room wall. So it was maybe the best college football viewing weekend I have ever had. My multi-view was like the size of every TV that I had in New York City in each of those 4 components of the quad box. I was in heaven. It was fantastic. So in terms of all the football viewing that I had, I was in a really good spot for week number 1.
Dude, go ahead.
Well, what guy gets, Ben, I mean, there's some there's some stuff that went as planned. I mean, the lines, they're pretty good outside of probably that Florida State Bama. I mean, I think most of them were pretty close to what you ultimately thought they would be within a score. So what was the most surprising game to you? Like maybe outside of that Bama Florida State game, just simply do that. We'll have to land on that for a minute too.
Yeah, Alabama, Florida State was by far the most surprising from an odds perspective. All the 3 top 10 matchups that we had, Ohio State, Texas, LSU, Clemson, Miami, Notre Dame, where the line was around 2.5, 3, maybe 4 points as it was in favor of Clemson in that Saturday night primetime matchup. We expected all these games to be great. It was the most AP top 10 games we had seen during week 1 in at least 20 years, might be longer. Honestly, I just couldn't count all that much farther than 2 decades of a sample size. And all of those games turned out to be decided by a single score, coming down to a single possession when the game hung in the balance late. So that was exactly as we expected. Were they the high-scoring affairs that maybe we anticipated in some spots? I think if you knew anything about Ohio State, Texas, we thought that game was going to be low scoring because of two tremendous defenses. And of course, the Buckeyes proved that in game number 1 under Matt Patricia. Clemson, LSU, two pretty good defenses that can only improve this year, as we saw as well. Outside of Alabama, Florida State, there wasn't all that many games that left me saying, okay, I did not anticipate that to be the case. Really, when you look up and down the Big Ten slate, the games against the MAC, about how I expected them to go. I actually thought Oregon and Montana State was maybe going to be a little bit closer because Montana State, the Bobcats, the FCS national runner-up. So I thought for Dante Moore's first start in Eugene that there might be a few nerves. Not like Oregon was going to be tested like against Idaho a season ago, but maybe keeping that game within 4 touchdowns. The Ducks looked elite from the very start. I thought that was a really good sign for Oregon entering their Week 2 matchup in the non-con against Oklahoma State.
Hey, how did you do? How did your money? I mean, again, you're driving, you're flying, you're moving, you're laying wagers. How did you do on all the bets that you had?
Good, Schlegs. Pretty good, because I had the under of Ohio State, Texas, one of the first bets that I bet back in May when the line opened up, the over-under at 49.5. I think a lot of people probably saw that. We're like, we're not going to get 50 points between the Buckeyes offensively and Arch Manning's debut. No, I trusted the defenses, and of course, that was a dead under the entirety of the way. One of my favorite bets of the night was Utah minus 5.5, Utah minus 6.5 against UCLA. I'm not trusting Nico Iamaleava. I wanted to see what he would do in his Rose Bowl debut under new offensive play caller in Tino Sunseri. And Utah was a bad team last year, 5-7. But if you know college football, and you know the last 21 seasons under Kyle Whittingham in Salt Lake, you know that is an aberration. And they had built up the offensive line. I thought what they would have up front defensively would be far improved from where it was a year ago. And I'm a huge believer in Devin Dampier. I'm sure we'll talk Oklahoma, Michigan as we get ready for the Week 2 primetime game and that marquee matchup in just a little bit. But so many people highlighted John Mateer making the move to Norman under his offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle, who leaves Washington State, and they travel together. Same story for Dampier and his new OC, or old OC, Jason Beck, who takes the play calling duties in Salt Lake. They were together last year at New Mexico, and Dampier is one of the most exciting quarterbacks we have in college football. I thought Utah would lay the wood. They laid the wood and then some, 43-10. So those were two of the bets that I was early on, I felt like. And then one I added Saturday night, USC, Missouri State over 59.5 for the game. Did not expect Southern Cal to go over that number by themselves, scoring 73 points, the most they have scored since 1930. But that's what Lincoln Riley's offenses need to be at SC. And I know it's Missouri State making their FBS debut as a program. I understand it was in Los Angeles. But if Southern Cal is going to get back to the Hollywood standards that program has, especially with me here about 25 minutes away now, that was a big step, I thought, for USC and Jaden Mayava.
So if there's any like futures actions you could grab, I mean, would Utah, should they change your mind? I mean, some of these, it's almost, I look at it like a little bit of in-game betting. Like you just want to see a little bit beforehand. I think we suspected that. Yeah. I mean, are they a team that you think could viably win the Big 12 now?
No doubt about it, Bobby. And they were one of those teams with the 6 shortest prices, right? We had 6 teams separated by $1, plus 550 the favorites like Arizona State, Texas Tech, and then only $1 off, despite a losing record last year, was Kyle Whittingham's club. I thought Utah was going to be in the race. I thought Utah would get back to 8 or 9 wins, which had been the standard. They had won at least 8 games and then 10 the 2 years prior in 2021 through 2023. Again, last year, a huge aberration. And that's why I think the Utes will be in the competitive Big 12 race. I still like what I saw out of Arizona State. Interesting one for the Fear of the Fort Devils on the road this week against Mississippi State. A line that I thought would be a little bit higher than it is against the Bulldogs, staying under a touchdown. I understand Big 12 team from the West Coast and ASU go to SEC country against Mississippi State. The line probably shouldn't be north of a touchdown. But still, I think that will be an interesting one for Kenny Dillingham and company. And I still have a lot of belief in Texas Tech. And Texas Tech has the easiest slate, Bobby, in what is a pretty competitive Big 12, where nobody had a win total fewer than 5.5. Nobody had a win total higher than 8.5. So everybody right around that bowl eligibility margin and kind of around 8-9 wins expected. I think the Red Raiders have the easiest schedule in the Big 12 out of those front runners. So I've had a lot of belief in Texas Tech. In fact, I have 2 conference championship bets for this league, in Texas Tech to win the league and Arizona State. It's the only conference around the country I have 2 teams to win a conference championship just because of how up in the air I expect the Big 12 title race to be.
Well, there's so many. I'm just looking through of all these games. There are so many ones where you can question where is the value and who has what. You got to Illinois at Duke. I mean, again, one, it's going to be good for Illinois. Number 12, 11 team in the country going at Duke. What do you feel about that game?
Yeah, Schlegs, I think it's a really big prove-it weekend for the Big Ten. Again, we don't have a ton of top 25 tilts where this team is ranked 11th and the other team is 7th. We don't have what we had last week, of course, for Ohio State beginning their national title defense against the number 1 team in the nation. But there's a lot of good non-conference Power 4 matchups, and that's been such a talking point throughout this offseason. Our Big Ten teams with their 3 non-conference games playing Power Conference competition on the other side. Oh, the SEC does it each and every year. Yes, it is a mandate. And as the SEC now expands to 9 conference games, will the Big Ten match that mandate in scheduling to have a Power Conference foe each and every year early in the season like we are seeing now? You've got this game between Illinois and Duke, where a lot of people, I shared this out on Twitter earlier in the week, and some of the more sports handicappers have been like, that's why the line is what it is. Home field advantage, 2.5, 3 points. That's why Duke is a really good team who won 9 games last year. These are where the power-rated models have the Blue Devils and the Illini at this moment. I get it. I think Duke is going to be good. I think Duke probably wins 7 or 8 games in the ACC. I'm just saying from my perspective of Illinois, expecting them to go back-to-back and winning at least 10 games, and as I have told you guys, maybe make a charge to the college football playoff, I think Illinois should be a little bit higher rated than Duke. So am I getting a better value pick when this number is only under a field goal at 2.5? If I believe in the Illini doing what I think they are capable of this year, then yes. But of course, the odds makers in those models and algorithms think these 2 teams are much more competitive than what we are seeing here. It's a really big spot for the Illini, who, when you're playing Western Illinois and you're a 45.5-point favorite against the Leathernecks team that has lost like 25 of their last 30 games now, you are expected to go out there and win big. That's exactly what Illinois did, 52-3. They covered as a 45.5-point favorite. Luke Altmaier was very comfortable. Gabe Akis, who's one of the best defensive ends in the country and certainly in the Big Ten, causing chaos. That's the stuff that you want to see when you're playing lesser competition, and that's the stuff where you put the building blocks in place where the sample size, the data coming in is not nearly as robust to then go on the road against a really stout non-conference foe in the Blue Devils, led by Manny Diaz and the new transfer Darian Mensah, who had a sensational true freshman campaign at Tulane. That's the stuff that you want to see that brings back the congruency and consistency year over year for the Illini, that gives you confidence. They can go into Durham. They can go into Wallace Wade on Saturday and win even as a slight road favorite. If Illinois is going to get to the area where I think they can, 10-2, college football playoff contender, this is a huge notch in the resume belt to put on that slate early in the year to prove the college football playoff selection committee they can go out of conference and beat the best. Duke might not be the best, but it's a huge, huge notch in the belt for the Illini and Brett Bielema, one I think they capitalize on Saturday.
All right, we're going to take a quick break because there's a handful of games. We got the Cyhawk out there. We've got that Oklahoma, Michigan. There's another one that I think is pretty darn intriguing as well. I want to ask Ben about. We'll be back right after this with more Ben Scott Stevens. Attention parents and athletes, protect what matters most with Export mouth guards trusted by professional athletes, designed by NHL team dentists. Export mouth guards are scientifically tested to help absorb those high-impact hits, protecting both your teeth and your brain. Export mouth guards feature 3 layers of advanced protection, including a patented use of carbon fiber. They custom 3D print it right to your grill for more protection, better performance, max comfort, and clear communication so you can focus on the game, not on your gear. Don't take chances with your safety. Visit exportguards.com today, /Bobby today, and save 15% on your order. Export, protect what matters most. More of our guy, Ben Stevens, coming up next.
Creative, experience, results. That's what drives growth. That's what builds brands. That's Lake Spur Marketing, a full-service agency built on trust, strategy, and performance, not fluff. From bold strategies to flawless execution, every campaign is rooted in smart planning and driven by clear goals. We don't chase clicks. We build partnerships. We show up, dig in, and deliver every single time. Lake Spur Marketing. The proof is in our partners.
Refine your golf swing effortlessly right from the comfort of your home with Pure AV. There's no tee time required. Pure AV's full swing golf simulators capture your every move with precision, while realistic graphics and immersive environments bring the thrill of the greens indoors. Perfect for practice, play with friends, or hosting upscale events. Discover the flawless blend of sport and luxury. Book your consultation today at pureavcorp.com.
Still with our dude, Mr. Ben Scott Stevens, giving you the best information and the best knowledge you will be able to find anywhere. And as I was cruising through this is a game that may be going a little under the radar. And the Florida teams have a lot of stuff going on and cooking here. And they all looked pretty good week one. Everyone talks about Miami. They talk about Florida. You talk about Florida State. But the South Florida Bulls went out there and quietly opened up a can to start. And then with that fake punt, it just exploded all over Boise State. And Alex Golish, Ohio State alum, done a great job. Obviously, at Tennessee, he's doing a great job there at South Florida. They have a lot of energy. They're getting, what are they getting laid to them? They're about 17.5 against Florida. I know Florida's good. I know it's on the road, but for an intrastate rivalry like that, that seems like a lot, Ben.
Yeah, Bobby, it's a really interesting matchup as well, because we saw DJ Lagway and the Gators take on Long Island University. Now, LIU is going to take all the payment of going to the Swamp, and that's going to fund the entirety of the athletic department. Did we learn anything from the Gators, though? Not necessarily. DJ Lagway, with all of his questions in the offseason around his health, maybe not as efficient as you would want against lower competition at the FCS level. Meanwhile, USF looked incredible. This was the Alex Golish promise of what his teams would look like, creatively, fun, and an offensive juggernaut against the Boise State team. We all understand they're replacing Ashton Genty, but Maddox Madsen is back. A lot of the offensive line is back, and a running back in Sire Gaines that I think can be pretty good, at least based on the scheme, for what offensively things have looked like for the Broncos the last few years. That was one of the worst performances I think we can expect out of a Boise State team that we always think will be stout. Line worked against them. South Florida had the late movement, and they win at home in Tampa. I think the Bulls stay within this game. The line is 17.5. Now, I think Florida wins. I have Florida's win total to the over of 6.5 earlier in the offseason. I hope Billy Napier leads his team to a victory here, but I think we want to see a lot from the offense under DJ Lagway. But on the other side, this is Byron Brown. He is a really dynamic quarterback, a really good athlete, and has developed as a passer the last few seasons under Alex Golish. I think this is a game that is within that 3-score margin. Is it going to be a single-score game? Will South Florida have the opportunity to strike the upset? That's a different question than what the odds expectation for Saturday in the Swamp is at 17.5. Bobby, like you, I think USF keeps this game pretty close. Florida wins. I think South Florida covers, staying within 17.5.
Well, I'm going to ask you this one because this kind of like perplexes me, and I'm just looking at the value. Looking at the value here. You got Baylor 0-1, lost to Auburn, played SMU, didn't really play anybody.
Yeah.
SMU's -3 at home. This is a team that just went to the ACC championship game last year in the college football playoff.
Yeah.
You got an 0-1 Baylor coming to town, and you got 3. You taking that?
So, Schlegs, it's a really interesting point that you bring up, because when this line opened up, it was 3.5 in favor of SMU, and everybody was on SMU. Market response, 89% of the betting handle back on the Baylor Bears, thinking that might have been a slight overreaction for this in-state showdown between Big 12 and ACC squads. And then so you had the overreaction, market now starting to even out, but the number has laid is still around 2.5. I think you're getting some value on Baylor. It wasn't the greatest opening weekend performance at home in McLean Stadium against Auburn. But I think if you can shore up the defense, and there is no doubt that Dave Aranda has had a very long week of practice for his team because he is a defensive mastermind, although the last 3 years they have been atrocious defensively, which is why I thought Auburn would have some success on Friday in week number 1, and that's what we saw. If Baylor can start to fill out the run and they can contain Kevin Jennings and keep him in the pocket, I think there is some value on the Baylor Bears in this spot. But what is value? The number is now under 3. You're basically talking about a pick 'em by the college ranks of things, seeing a 2.5-point spread. I think Baylor wins this football game, and I think Baylor reminds us why they had some optimism entering this year with Sawyer Robertson back at the quarterback spot, with Bryson Washington back as his running back as well, and expecting the offense to kind of carry the water until that Dave Aranda defense started to pick things up as we were accustomed to just a few years ago. And of course, in Aranda's long track record as a really good defensive mind in college football. I think we see some buyback here in Baylor, and I think the market moves early on, Schlegs, kind of back up that idea the Bears are not nearly as bad as they put on display at home against Auburn.
Absolutely. I love it. Now to the Heartland. Staying in the Heartland, just moving a little bit further north, the Cy-Hawk Trophy. Iowa State looked really good in their opening weekend win over Kansas State. Obviously not as much to show last week. Iowa not showing a ton, but listen, this is a big year for Kirk Ferentz. He's going to pass Woody Hayes, most likely as the all-time winningest coach in conference history for conference games. Iowa's kind of dominated this series, but Cyclones favored by 3.5. It's in Ames. How much does that matter, and where do you like it?
Well, speaking of being in Ames inside Jack Trice, Iowa has won 6 straight on the road in this rivalry matchup inside Ames, Iowa, which is interesting. The first thing that, of course, stands out anytime you talk Cy-Hawk is the over-under. It's 42.5, now has worked its way down to 41 and a hook. That is the largest over-under, the highest amount of points expected since 2021. Not my Cy-Hawk. I like when this game is around 34.5, 35 and a hook. But this is where I think this game gets very interesting, because what Iowa State has done with Rocco Beck this year is really not skipped a beat offensively. They do not have Jaden Higgins or Jalen Noel. They have gone to Abu Sama in the backfield more so than Carson Hansen, who kind of delivered in that second half of the Dublin game against Kansas State. What does Iowa have on that side of the football? Because we know that Phil Parker is the guy. 14th year as the defensive coordinator in Iowa City. I trust in Phil Parker more than many of my family members to coordinate a great defense each and every season, and I think we'll be ready for the test. I thought that when you looked at Iowa's performance against Albany to get to 205 wins for Kirk Ferentz to match Woody Hayes, I thought it was really interesting how porous Mark Gronowski looked at the quarterback spot. He did not look like he was in command of Tim Lester's offense, which should fit right into what he does well. He looked like he had some jitters. He admitted that he had some jitters, as we saw early on, trying to find a wide open Sam Phillips in the end zone. I mean, wide open. Even my third string high school quarterback behind could have thrown that football to Sam Phillips for a touchdown. He admitted that he had some first game jitters at the helm of this Hawkeyes offense. How does it look in what we are expecting to see, and not a high scoring affair by any means, but a higher scoring Cy-Hawk game than we have seen in the last few years? Can that offense be good where Gronowski doesn't have his top running back entering the year in Kamari Moulton, who is out for this game, and Reese Vanderzee, who is the top returning wide receiver for the Hawkeyes offensively in a 2025 as well? I think it's a big step-up spot from the new quarterback in Iowa City that we all expect to be probably the best and most consistent since Nate Stanley was roaming things there for that Iowa offense. Needs to be better. Tim Lester has done a great job of coordinating a great ground game. That's going to be a huge help for Mark Gronowski, but he's got to let it rip if Iowa's going to win 7 straight on the road in Ames in this Cy-Hawk rivalry.
Ben, I'm going to go ahead, Bob. I'm asking about Michigan OU. I want to say I thank you for your time of sharing your wealth of knowledge with us from prison. Because every time I look at you right now, I honestly, you're glistening. You're so passionate. You're good. Hey, tell us, you got Michigan. Bryce Underwood looked good. Last week you got OU. Big-time game at OU. Yeah. We saw what Michigan did last year versus Texas. New team. What are you thinking about this game with OU being favored by 4.5, something like that?
Yeah, Schlegs, it's interesting, right? Because when this line opened up, again, we had some of the marquee matchups, certainly week 1, because there's nothing then the odds makers really need to vary unless we get a bad fall camp report or some significant injury more than likely to the quarterback spot. But we had some of these marquee matchups later in the year, like Oklahoma, Michigan. We expected to be a top 25 tilt week number 2 early on back in May and July, but of course anticipating that we would learn something week number 1. And when the line opened up back in May, it was 1.5 in favor of Oklahoma. But when you power rate these teams on an even field, Michigan is thought of as the better football team. And then later in July, 2.5 in favor of the Sooners. Still, about a dead even power rating model comparing these two squads against one another if they were playing on a neutral field aspect, not taking in the few points that we get for home field advantage, of course, for Oklahoma hosting this game in Norman. And then week number 1 comes to a close. I would say it wasn't necessarily dicey, but Michigan slightly tested or a little bit more competitive than we expected against the Lobos and Jason Eck of New Mexico in that game. You lose Jayshon Barham for the opening half of this one as well. And Oklahoma steamrolls Illinois State as we anticipated, but John Mateer looks sensational, nearly 400 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and a rushing score as well. And this line goes, whoop. Oklahoma a 5.5-point favorite now for this game against Michigan, down to 4.5. But Schlegs, the interesting thing about the move back to 4.5 is the market is still betting Oklahoma. 56% of the handle as of this morning as we're getting ready for this game, still on the Sooners, and yet there's been a move in the market back to Michigan. That's kind of how I feel. I think the Wolverines keep this game close. Now, can they win outright on the road in Norman? That remains to be seen. I think Oklahoma is the better football team in this spot. I've had a lot of belief in the Sooners. I have them in my college football playoff in 2025 because I thought it was a defense last year under Brent Venables that did not get the credit it deserved for really having to carry the lion's share of all production OU saw because of how awful the offense was. And if the offense led by John Mateer now is good, you've got a really good defense under Venables, and you've got a really good offense led by Ben Arbuckle, the new play caller, and John Mateer at the quarterback spot. So I would watch where this line ends on Saturday night. And if you can look into the betting splits and you can look into where the money is going, and it's still favoring Oklahoma, but the market is bought back in a little bit on Michigan, that should be a tell for you. I think the Wolverines keep this game close, and here is the key matchup. Bryce Underwood looked really good against New Mexico. Efficient, 21 of 31, 251 yards, a touchdown. All you can ask out of a true freshman, even a dazzling true freshman, even the number 1 quarterback recruit in the country in 2025 in his debut in Ann Arbor. This is a road test against the good Oklahoma defense. We saw how different things can go, like Arch Manning experienced last week inside the shoe against that staunch Buckeyes defense. Now, Oklahoma's defense not nearly as good as Ohio State's, at least right here, right now, but this is a different animal. So Justice Haynes, the Alabama transfer that had a $159 on the ground and 3 touchdowns against New Mexico last week, he will be the key in my mind. If Michigan can establish that run and do what they have done so well behind stout offensive lines in the last 3 to 4 years, that's how Michigan keeps this game close, because we know Wink Martindale on that defense is going to have a very tough test trying to contain John Mateer. If the ground game is good for the Maize and Blue, they keep this game close within that 5.5, 4.5 point margin and maybe even pull off the outright upset. But if they are stopped because of how good Oklahoma's defense was, yards per play last year, and Justice Haynes is not nearly as good as he was in his Michigan debut, then that's where things get dicey, and that's where I think Oklahoma wins by at least a touchdown covering that margin.
All right, Ben, there's a lot there. That was a ton on that Oklahoma-Michigan game. We appreciate it, sir. Keep moving in. Enjoy the 75-inch TV this weekend, and we'll catch up again next week, sir.
Can't wait to talk to you guys next week. Thank you for having me, as always, Schleich.
Ben Scott Stevens. Give him a follow on Twitter, on X, at Ben Scott Stevens for all of the news, notes, and nuggets. He's got them in-game, all the action you need right there. I want to tell you about our friends over at Backer Schlegs, premium Buckeye gear for premium Buckeye fans. It's got all the features you're looking for, the doodads, the whatchamacallits, everything in there. It looks good. It feels even better. And then the weather is starting to pick up. It's getting a little colder. The cold gear, the rain gear, the wind, they've got you covered. They've got great hats too. Go check them out, bckr.com, bckr.com, promo code Bobby, all caps, BOBBY, at checkout for free expedited shipping. Again, that's bckr.com. Check them out. We've got our headlines coming up next.
Creative, experience, results. That's what drives growth. That's what builds brands. That's Lake Spur Marketing, a full-service agency built on trust, strategy, and performance, not fluff. From bold strategies to flawless execution, every campaign is rooted in smart planning and driven by clear goals. We don't chase clicks. We build partnerships. We show up, dig in, and deliver every single time. Lake Spur Marketing. The proof is in our partners.
Smart home automation has never looked so good. When you visit the Pure AV Design Center, you'll be immersed in the epitome of sophistication and state-of-the-art home automation technology. Flawless design, exquisite materials, unparalleled craftsmanship. You deserve nothing less than the pinnacle of perfection. Discover what you've been missing at Pure AV on Killian Road in Akron or online at pureavcorp.com.
Oh, goodness. There was a lot there, Schlegs, with our guy, Ben Scott Stevens.
He's so good at that, Bob.
He is.
He's so good at that.
He is the best. I want to tell you about our friend Schlegs over at Lake Spur Marketing, full-service marketing agency built on trust, strategy, performance, from the digital ad placement to broadcast buys to the creative and everything in between. Lake Spur has you covered. At Lake Spur Marketing, there isn't a set-it-and-forget-it strategy. Their tactics are customized to your needs, and they will target them and change them with you as you work. Leave the marketing to them so you can do what you do best, which is run your business. Lake Spur Marketing, the proof is in their partners. Give them a follow at lakespurmarketing.com. All right, Schlegs, Buckeyes.
He has some good stuff. You know what, Bob, I'm going to ask you this question. When you're betting, I'm not a big bettor, but like you have to bet kind of how you see the game is going to go. That's why I liked about what Ben talked about, because to me, when he was speaking, I'm like, okay, what does Michigan like to call that? They like to call it like grind or whatever, right? The offensive line just churning up the clock, establishing the run game. If you feel, that's kind of the point, right? If you feel that they can make this like an old school, low scoring affair, control the time of possession, you got to bet that. Or if not, you think Oklahoma's going to be able to do, that's what you got to bet. Like, that's what's so hard on these ones. And I'm just so grateful that he gives you the option. He knows his stuff, man.
Yeah.
Ben Scott Stevens, four people in one.
How do you feel that game is going to go? He'll let you know, and you can kind of feel it out. And that's kind of what it is. And a lot of these games, styles make fights. And we know so little about some of these teams right now. We found out a lot about Ohio State, Texas, Clemson, Notre Dame, Miami. Who else was played one of those teams? I can't even LSU. Like those big time matchup games, you feel like you learned a lot. Florida State, Alabama, learned a lot there. But the rest of them, it's like, okay, you beat a team that you're supposed to, which is what Ohio State should be doing against Grambling this weekend. You're not going to really learn anything new. Now, you already found out a bunch about Ohio State, but until you get in those matchup games where you actually have to go, you have to compete, and you have to win, it's tough to find out a lot. All right, we got our Tailgate Talk Schlegs coming up next. We're going to answer some of your questions. Got some great comments from the show we did with Coach Tress on Tuesday and our guy Bill Bender. We'll get to some of that here coming up next.
Creative, experience, results. That's what drives growth. That's what builds brands. That's Lake Spur Marketing, a full-service agency built on trust, strategy, and performance, not fluff. From bold strategies to flawless execution, every campaign is rooted in smart planning and driven by clear goals. We don't chase clicks. We build partnerships. We show up, dig in, and deliver every single time. Lake Spur Marketing. The proof is in our partners.
Who doesn't love having everything at their fingertips? With Pure AV's smart home automation, you can seamlessly manage your home's audio, video, lighting, security, and more, all with a simple touch. Create a sanctuary that embodies your unique style and personalized features that bring comfort to every moment. Sit back, relax, and let Pure AV bring convenience and control to your home. Visit us at pureavcorp.com today.
All right, welcome into our Tailgate Talk where we answer your questions, Slags. Please follow. Followers have been way up. Comments, questions, anything we can do, we appreciate it. Just likes, just give us the interaction, trying to grow the show as much as possible. And it's a function of everybody here. So we really appreciate that, both digitally and then on FanDuel TV. One of the comments came in, Slags, talking about the defenses, about why maybe the game was shortened a number of plays, so the defenses are more sophisticated, but also the clock changes are huge, which that happened last year, and you've seen Ryan Day play a lot differently because of that, leaning into that defense and maybe not wanting to give quite as much exposure to their defense and just their players in general.
Yeah, I would say that. And I also say it was a function of the fact that Texas wanted to go hurry up. They wanted to keep him in certain personnel packages. Well, that's great because Ohio State had the answer. Stay with that package. We like what we got in that package. But when you can do multiple things from the same personnel, because the foundation for all things is just base, when you're learning it, when you're thinking about it, when you're processing it, the ability to have a guy go in motion and add a tag that we're disguising this as man. If you think about it, everybody, what is it that they played a lot of? They played a lot of cover 3. Well, if you know what cover 3 is, that means you have 3 deep, 4 under. Okay?
Yep.
So if you know that, hey, we're going to tag this, show man with it, all you have to know as a defender, where am I in the 4 under? That's it. If I go all the way across in motion and I'm buttoned up against another corner, a.k.a. Jermaine Matthews, I know he's the 3rd corner on that side. What does that make me? Curl flat player? That, again, just so you guys know, that's how it fits. That's how it works. But the foundation is laid of what is the principles of this coverage, regardless of what coverage you're in. And then where is my spot in it? Boom, I go.
There you go. One of the other comments in here, Schlegs, from Kyle Huff coming at us. How many fan helmet stickers did we get? Did I get is what he said. But as a unit, as a group in the shoe, they got 4 procedure penalties. That was pretty darn big and pretty darn awesome as well.
I like how they started that. That was cool. It's like they had the helmet with a sticker on there. I love that. That's amazing.
I'm saying it was a home run. And then we're going to, keep getting into this and talking about it. We talked about it a little bit yesterday and on Tuesday as well. I think the Texas most valuable player was their punter. The field position, his proficiency left us from getting good opportunity to get on the scoreboard even more. So there's going to have to be an asymmetry swinging back, Schlegs, and get that punt game going and the best that they can. All right, that's it for our tailgate talk. We've got the parting nuggets with our guy, Anthony Schlegel.
Creative, experience, results. That's what drives growth. That's what builds brands. That's Lake Spur Marketing, a full-service agency built on trust, strategy, and performance, not fluff. From bold strategies to flawless execution, every campaign is rooted in smart planning and driven by clear goals. We don't chase clicks. We build partnerships. We show up, dig in, and deliver every single time. Lake Spur Marketing. The proof is in our partners.
Refine your golf swing effortlessly right from the comfort of your home with Pure AV. There's no tee time required. Pure AV's full swing golf simulators capture your every move with precision, while realistic graphics and immersive environments bring the thrill of the greens indoors. Perfect for practice, play with friends, or hosting upscale events. Discover the flawless blend of sport and luxury. Book your consultation today at pureavcorp.com.
Parting thoughts, Schlegs. Wrap up the show.
And what he was saying and what he was seeing was exactly what was going on. That's
all
a great.
I need. Thank you, Pat. That's all I need. And that's, Bob, really what you want to see. And we talked about earlier in the show. How do you get guys up? How do you see the development? It's when you have guys, not only your starters, but the backups, the other guys that are going to play significant time throughout the season. When they come off the field, regardless of a position or unit, whatever, are they saying and seeing what the coach is seeing? And when you have that, you can articulate the adjustments in game that need to occur because now you guys are both seeing the same picture. And that's a great sign when you have your head football coach and a first game starter and a young quarterback that he's seeing exactly what they're seeing. He understands that they can make those adjustments, and that's why they practice, and that's where you're going to see another level up going into week 2.
Absolutely, Schlegs. We'll love it. We've got one more day left until we're to game day. Get some rest. Enjoy Packers Cowboys tonight. We'll talk to you again tomorrow on the Bobby Carpenter Show.
Creative, experience, results. That's what drives growth. That's what builds brands. That's Lakespur Marketing, a full-service agency built on trust, strategy, and performance, not fluff. From bold strategies to flawless execution, every campaign is rooted in smart planning and driven by clear goals. We don't chase clicks. We build partnerships. We show up, dig in, and deliver every single time. Lakespur Marketing. The proof is in our partners.
Smart home automation has never looked so good. When you visit the Pure AV Design Center, you'll be immersed in the epitome of sophistication and state-of-the-art home automation technology. Flawless design, exquisite materials, unparalleled craftsmanship. You deserve nothing less than the pinnacle of perfection. Discover what you've been missing at Pure AV on Killian Road in Akron or online at Pure